Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We'll discuss all the latest news in Major League Baseball. As always, I'm your host, Jeremiah, and Ben is actually not here today. He's not here for the show. He has come down with a sickness. He is out sick today. But of course, you know, I got you covered. We got a lot of off-season deals that have not been made yet, and we have some that have been made. But most notably, the biggest off-season acquisition, well, not the biggest, but one of the most notable off-season additions, that is the Edwin Encarnacion has signed with the Cleveland Indians. They signed the former Blue Jays slugger to a 3-year, $65 million deal. There's also a $5 million buyout on the option as well. So I also want to include that it contains the option for 4 season, and that buyout is in there, which is $5 million. But yeah, you know, this adds a very, very powerful lineup to a really good, you know, Cleveland Indians lineup that really took us by surprise. Actually, you know, Carlos Santana really has a lot of pop in the bat. Jason Kipnis had a really great year. Francisco Lindor, who had a breakout season, and also was a very good breakout. He was a breakout star in the playoffs. Mike Napoli really had a great year. Jose Ramirez was a huge down the stretch for the Indians. And Tyler Naquin, I think he's going to be a lot better from his rookie season a year ago. But Edwin Encarnacion, he adds a very powerful lineup in this lineup in Cleveland. And you know, Edwin Encarnacion, he was actually left. He is probably one of the last few big name free agents that was yet to sign. You know, he didn't really have a lot of offers. I think it's because, you know, he was asking for too much money, but which I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised that he didn't get the offers because of the amount of money he wanted, but I am surprised that he didn't get a lot of offers because of his numbers. You know, he hit 42 home runs last season, and you know, ever since he entered the Blue Jays lineup in 2009, he's just been a huge presence. He has hit 34 or more home runs in 5 straight seasons. So with the addition of Encarnacion, the main question is who's going to play the designated hitter spot. Because remember, Mike Napoli, that's where he was hitting last year, and he is returning to Cleveland. Toronto did sign Kendrys Morales, so he's going to play first base, and he's going to DH as well. So that kind of made Encarnacion's return to the Blue Jays very unlikely. And then don't forget, Jose Bautista is also unsigned, which is another big free agent left on the market. But it is unclear to see where not Cleveland, but Encarnacion, where does he fit into this lineup? You know, when I did name the lineup, you know, Napoli was a designated hitter last year. You know, and Carlos Santana, you know, he's the first baseman. You know, Kipnis second base, Lindor shortstop. Ramirez did play third base. Chisenhall is a utility guy. You can put him anywhere. Roberto Perez was the catcher last year. So where are you going to put him? Are you going to replace Encarnacion with Mike Napoli? Because I can really realistically say that. Because Mike Napoli did have a really great year, but is he really going to have that good a year again? Where you're getting at Encarnacion. He's, like I said earlier, he's hit 34 or more home runs for the past 5 years, and he is going to. Don't get me wrong. I know he played at a very hitter-friendly ballpark, but I know he had a very, very hitter-friendly ballpark. But remember, before he went to Toronto, he was playing in Cincinnati, and he didn't really have a lot of success in Cincinnati, before he went on a power binge since 2009. He hasn't been that guy in Cincinnati, but I do think the fact that he doesn't really have to worry about fielding really did help his career. Ever since he went to Toronto, he had a resurging career, and he's been one of the top power hitters in all baseball. And I do expect another big year out of him again. He did have a career high RBIs last year with 127, and if Michael Brantley can come back for the Indians, who I think was their best player before he got hurt, I think if Michael Brantley could come back healthy next year, this is a very powerful lineup. This is a very powerful lineup that can really contend for a AL pennant again. Remember, because they got the rotation to do it. The rotation got him to the World Series last year. Unfortunately, they didn't win it after having a 3-1 lead. But this is a very, very underrated lineup. Now, a lot of people didn't talk about this lineup at all. It is mostly the pitching that's got them there, and then the pitching is going to be even healthier going to next year as well. Because they're going to get Carlos Carrasco back healthy. They're going to get Danny Salazar healthy. Corey Kluber is going to come back, and Josh Tomlin had a really great year. I don't know if he's going to have a great year again. But, he was solid enough to be the fifth starter. He was one of the best fifth starters in all of baseball last year. So I do think Cleveland is going to be a really serious contender in the American League. And I really do want to see this lineup fully healthy. I want to see this team fully healthy. I want to see how this team or this pitching rotation for the Indians, I want to see how they can be in the playoffs with a fully healthy rotation and a fully healthy lineup with Encarnacion. So with the addition of Encarnacion, and if Michael Brantley can be really healthy again, because he's had trouble with injuries, if he can stay healthy, he doesn't have to be the same player that he was 2 or 3 years ago. If he can be half that player and just get on base, because remember, one of his biggest traits was his speed. He may not have the same speed, but if he still has even half of that power left, this is a very powerful lineup, very underrated lineup in the American League. And I'm actually surprised that Encarnacion really waited this long. I really am. I really am surprised. And Encarnacion did get some interest from Oakland and in Texas. I actually thought he was going to go to Texas. I thought that would have been a really great addition to the Rangers lineup. The A's, I'm actually really not surprised that he went to the A's. The A's are nowhere to be in contention next year. They were one of the worst teams in baseball last year, so I'm surprised that they didn't go there. But the contract for this is the contract for this though was amazing. 3 years, $65 million, 3 years. And if he does happen to take that fourth option, that fourth season, wow. But yeah, I do like this move, and I think Edwin Encarnacion is going to get I think he's going to have a great season for the Indians. I think the Indians are going to be contenders in the American League again, and it'll be interesting to see how Encarnacion is going to shape out for the Cleveland Indians there. But we're going to take our first break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, and I'm going to get into some other trade rumors that are bound to happen. So I will talk about some trade rumors here when we come back to Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. And it's time to get into some trade rumors here that have occurred over the past week or month, I should say. But Andrew McCutchen, one of the biggest names that has been talked about in the trade rumors, the Pittsburgh Pirates are practically are selling the all-star outfielder, and the Pirates offseason has included re-signing Ivan Nova, he was really good ever since he came to Pittsburgh last year, which I thought was a good move. And they also been in talks to acquire Jose Quintana, who's been in a lot of trade rumors as well. So their outlook is a little different than I think we're expected. But I do think that the Pirates want players that can play right away if they were to trade McCutchen. They don't want a lot of prospects. They want players. The Pirates want players, I think, that can play right now. I don't think they want players that can develop over time, which is nice, by the way. But, the Pirates, they're in a division with the Cubs. They're in a division with the Cardinals. So they're in probably one of the toughest divisions in all baseball. So they have to compete right away. And if they can't get the right pieces that can play right now for the Pirates, if the Pirates can't get the right pieces that can play for them and perhaps help them contend for a division title, then maybe they shouldn't trade McCutchen. And, McCutchen has been, honestly, probably one of my favorite players to watch ever since he came to the league. I just love the way he plays the game. And McCutchen was involved in rumors for several other teams, including the Washington Nationals. But, of course, that didn't work out because, the White Sox traded Adam Eaton to the Nationals. So he was pretty much out of the running there. Or the Washington Nationals were pretty much out of the running there. They probably wanted to go to a cheaper option. So one team has emerged for trying to acquire Andrew McCutchen. And that team is the Toronto Blue Jays. Remember, the Blue Jays, they had two big free agents. One of them is still unsigned, which is Jose Bautista, and the other one is Edwin Encarnacion, who I just talked about earlier in the show, that signed a 3-year deal with the Cleveland Indians. And the Blue Jays also have Kevin Pillar, who's probably probably one of the best outfielders in all baseball, defensive outfielders, that is. So Kevin Pillar is in center field, but McCutchen would have to, if McCutchen were to go to Toronto, he would probably have to play one of the corner outfielder spots because you can't take out a defensive glove. You can't take out a glove in baseball. Remember, Kevin Pillar may not be as efficient with the bat as McCutchen is, but remember, you still got to play defense. And I do like Pillar as a very good outfielder in center field, which is McCutchen's actual spot, by the way. But I think McCutchen is a good enough player to make a transition in any outfield spots. But I do think, honestly, I think that might be really good for Toronto because McCutchen is a guy that he's kind of like in a win now mode, so to speak. I don't think McCutchen is ever going to get a World Series with Pittsburgh. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. They failed to make the playoffs for the past couple of years, and when they were in the playoffs, they didn't go very far. The Pirates do have a lot of great talent on offense. They got Starling Marte, they got Gregory Polanco, so they got, and along with McCutchen, those are really great outfielders. They probably have the best outfield now in baseball, in my opinion. So I do think that it makes sense for McCutchen to go to Toronto, but I don't know if what is Toronto going to give up to get McCutchen? Because I do think if you're going to trade McCutchen, a guy that's practically been your franchise player for the past 5 years, if you're going to trade someone that's been your franchise, you kind of want players that can really get you into the playoffs and for a division title. You want guys that can get you that can help you get a division title. So who are the Toronto Blue Jays going to give up? The Blue Jays do have a really good solid pieces to get McCutchen, but I don't know if that's good enough to get McCutchen. So I think as of right now, it's probably 50% that McCutchen's probably going to get traded. But I would be surprised that McCutchen will be in a Pirates uniform in spring. I would be really surprised. But another trade rumor that has been going on is that Brian Dozier, the Minnesota Twins second baseman, hasn't been involved in a lot of trade rumors lately. Apparently, the Giants have been all in. The San Francisco Giants, that is. The Washington Nationals. The Los Angeles Dodgers are very much in the race. Cardinals have been added to the teams that are interested in Brian Dozier. And I think a change for him would be really good. The Twins organization has really got nowhere there. I don't know where they're going to go, but the Twins really need a lot of young players. They need a lot of young prospects. They need to rebuild. So trading Brian Dozier does make sense if you want to acquire a lot of players to rebuild, and I do think that is a really good player to trade if you want a lot of valuable pieces for the future. Because, the Twins, they do have a lot of good pieces in the farm system. They got Byron Buxton, who still, we've seen him in the league for about a couple of years. Byron Buxton hasn't very much panned out as we thought he would. They do have Miguel Sano, who's been, he's not a prospect anymore, but he's turned out very good. He just needs to learn how to not strike out so much. And then they have Jose Barrios, who's probably one of their top pitching prospects. And he showed a lot of potential. He showed some flashes last year, but he really showed that he wasn't major league ready. He got very much hit hard a lot. So they do have some very young talent there that I really like to see. And I do think Brian Dozier can probably maybe give him a lot of really good pieces to build on the future. Brian Dozier he's been a really good player too. Remember, he's still young. He's only 29 years old. He posted career highs last year. He batted .268. He had 99 RBIs, and he hit over 40 home runs. He had 42 home runs. So he was talked about being the leader in home runs for a while. But Brian Dozier to any of these teams, which are the Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Nationals, and the Giants, I'm not really surprised at all. I do think the most logical fit for Brian Dozier is probably the Dodgers. It's because the Dodgers, they do have the prospects. They got the talent to acquire Brian Dozier. And the Dodgers are probably they're probably going to deal Jose De Leon, which is their top pitching prospect. They're probably going to deal Jose De Leon for Brian Dozier. And I like that trade for both teams. You get a really young stud and Jose De Leon, who I think he's a better prospect than Jose Barrios. Jose Barrios is looked to be the future ace of the staff, but if the Dodgers trade Jose De Leon to the Twins for Brian Dozier, I like that move for both teams. So I do think that is the most logical fit for both of them. The Cardinals, they have a crowded infield already. Kolten Wong is their second baseman who has shown flashes. I think he's a very solid player. But he can always get better. But I do think the Dodgers probably the most logical fit. As for the Giants, I don't know how. I don't know. It's probably going to be unlikely for the Giants to get Brian Dozier. They don't really have the pieces to get Brian Dozier in a trade. The Nationals, they did trade some big time prospects already, but they might have something up their sleeve. The Cardinals, they have a really strong farm system, so I wouldn't be surprised if they happen to talk about something there. But I do think the Dodgers is probably the most logical fit for Brian Dozier to get traded to. We're going to take our last break here. And I'm going to get into some more rumors and some more deals that have occurred over the past week. And I will have those for you when we come back here to Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. And a couple of other deals and rumors that have occurred over the week is I didn't get a chance to talk about Jose Quintana yet. He's been one of the fought-after players in the hot stove this offseason. He has been reportedly been drawing interest for numerous teams. The Pirates have been one of them. The Texas Rangers have been one of them. The Nationals, the New York Yankees. So Quintana is probably one of the best young pitchers in the game. He was very underrated in my opinion last season. He did finish with a 13-12 record. He did finish with 181 strikeouts and 208 innings pitched. He did only generate 50 walks, so he has a very good strikeout ratio. He has a very good walk ratio. So he's been drawing a lot of interest. I do think Quintana has been one of the more underrated pitchers in the game ever since he has entered the league. He's just never had a lot of help from the White Sox poor offensive lineup, and even though the White Sox have added some pieces in the lineup this past season, they just haven't really got anything done. So we've seen moves with the White Sox. They traded their ace Chris Sale, and they did trade Adam Eaton, but they had a lot of great prospects in those two deals. I do think they can get very valuable pieces for Quintana. It's not going to be as high price as Chris Sale is. I'm surprised, and it's not going to be as high price as Adam Eaton. But I do expect Chicago White Sox to trade Quintana, and I think he's going to leave. I just think he is. The White Sox, they're in rebuilding mode, so to speak. So I would not be surprised if Quintana is not in a White Sox uniform next year. But the team who's going to get him, that remains to be seen. The Pirates are still trying to trade for Quintana after the Ivan Nova deal. And then it just remains to be seen. I do think the Yankees probably had the more realistic shot because they have top prospects that the White Sox want. So I can see that as a realistic location there for Quintana. But some other deals that have occurred over the week. Ben Revere, who was a huge part last year for the Blue Jays. Ben Revere has signed a 1-year deal worth $4 million to the Los Angeles Angels. That was reported by ESPN's Buster Olney there. Ben Revere has been one of the more underrated speedsters in the game. The Nationals did acquire the 28-year-old from Toronto in January. And then, Revere, he just had a very tough season through injuries last year. But, Revere did return in this May 6th, and he didn't really finish a whole lot. So, he only had two home runs and 24 RBIs in 103 games. But when Revere is fully healthy, I think he's a very good player, and I do think he's going to add some veteran presence there for the Angels, who have looked very terrible outside of Mike Trout. And another outfielder that has been signed is Edwin Encarnacion. He's been re-signed by the Atlanta Braves on a $30 million 5-year contract that goes through 2021. The deal does cover 4 years of arbitration eligibility and 1 year of free agency, which gives Atlanta a club option for 2022. So Encarnacion has been he was a really good player for a very bad Atlanta Braves team. So Encarnacion gets that $3.5 million signing bonus on January 15th. And salaries of $2 million the year after, $4 million in 2018, and $5 million in 2019. So it increases every year. But Braves general manager John Capoella said in a statement, quote, "We are thrilled to announce an extension for Ender. We feel that he's the best defensive center fielder in baseball and one of the best leadoff hitters in the game. Ender brings so much to our club on and off the field, and we're happy to have him under club control for at least 6 years," end quote. So Encarnacion was the National League Gold Glove winner at his position this year. He has been really effective leadoff hitter. He did hit .291 with only 3 home runs, did score 85 times with 29 RBIs and 16 stolen base. He missed 26 games early in the season because of a hamstring injury, but rebounded with a .341 batting average and 59 runs after the All-Star break. So he had a really great second half of the year. I actually do like this move. The Braves need as much as good players that they have. I do think Encarnacion is one of the best defensive outfielders in the game. He brings a very good presence at the top of the lineup. And, he's only 26, so I think he has a chance to get better from here on out. But remember, Encarnacion came to Atlanta last season as part of the 5-player trade deal that sent Shelby Miller to the Diamondbacks. So from that aspect, I kind of think the Braves got a really good player there. The only thing I didn't really like about that deal back in the day was that the Braves traded sharp-star prospect Dansby Swanson and Aaron Blair. So, yeah, I don't like that at all. But, as far as that deal, Shelby Miller went to the minor leagues, was just putrid. But the fact that the Braves did trade, Shelby Miller, I do think they won that trade by a landslide. Because if you look at it from both sides, I think Atlanta is pretty much the winner in that trade. And, they still got Dansby Swanson there. The Aaron Blair, who made his major league debut last year. They got a couple of really young players there that can really contribute in the future. But as I said, they were terrible last year, and they are rebuilding still. But before I leave, I got some news here that was reported earlier this week. It looks like the Red Sox and Yankees may play a game in London in 2018. Yes, so the two longtime rivals could play in the series in London as soon as 2018 at the 2012 Olympics venue, London Stadium. That is according to the Boston Herald there, and Yankees team president Randy Levine said, quote, "The Yankees have been at the forefront of suggesting that we bring the great game of baseball to London. There have been some meaningful attempts to do so, and we're hopeful and confident that we can play there soon. Playing the Red Sox in London would be a unique and special event." The Red Sox are also interested in taking the rivalry to England, though there are no firm plans yet. Sam Kennedy, the Red Sox president, said, quote, "There's nothing to the story at this point. However, if MLB decides that we're a good fit for it down the road, the team would love to do it," end quote. The MLB spokesman Michael Tivian told ESPN's Andrew Marchland, said, quote, "We made international play a part of our recent new labor agreement with the MLBPA London specifically was covered for some time during the agreement among other locations. So in October, this was part of the union agreement. So, the league and players agreed to the new collective bargaining agreement. And Rob Manfred, the Major League Baseball commissioner, said he thought the sport could be popular in London, which I think could be true. Baseball is a popular sport internationally, especially in Japan. Manfred did have some comments to say on this matter. He said, quote, I want to be really, really optimistic about it. I think it's an important thing for us to do. I think it's feasible in terms of facility. There's always question one, do you have some place to play? I think we would be popular in London. I think we could sell games. I do think we can make money with the undertaking. So it's something that we'll continue to discuss with Players Association. So I do like this because they are bringing one of the two most storied franchises in Major League Baseball. I kind of like this because they're bringing two teams that are so popular in America, and they're going to bring them to London. So practically MLB is sending really two storied franchises to play each other in London. I actually do like that. I kind of like that better than what the NFL is doing. They have the Jaguars playing there for 5 years, and the Jaguars are probably one of the most terrible NFL franchises right now. But the fact that baseball is pursuing a game in London overseas with really two storied franchises, I would love to see that. And I agree with Manfred. I do think they can sell a lot of tickets. I do think they'll be really popular, and I would love to see it. But that concludes our show today. As always, you can catch the show in a variety of formats, and Ben should be back next week. And we should be, because it's been about a month we haven't done this show together. I've been doing things and he's been doing things, so our schedule haven't aligned up. But we should be back next week to do this show together. But we're gonna have a lot of more rumors to talk about. Maybe Andrew McCutchen might get traded, Quintana might get traded, Dozier might get traded by that time, and some other off the radar deals could happen between now and next week. But as always, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning to the Golden State Mania Concepts Baseball Podcast. I'm Jeremiah, and you guys have a good week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.